Welcome to Touring with the Candidates. I'm the producer, Larry Nimmer. Each of the candidates for Carpinteria City Council will have up to 20 minutes to take you on their tour of Carpinteria. The itinerary and commentary is up to each candidate. So without further ado, let's watch the candidates.
Hi, Larry. Come on in.
And you are?
My name is Bob Franco, and I am a candidate for the Carpinteria City Council.
Well, thanks for having me today.
Yeah, come on.
Where are we?
We're in Sandpiper Mobile Home Park, which is an all-age park, and we have a nice mix of old and young here. And it's a privately owned park, so we pay rent. So as your councilman, I would certainly be in favor of our rent control ordinance for mobile home parks.
And who's here today?
And I'd like to introduce my wife, Eileen.
Hi, Eileen.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
And I would like to speak to you, the people of Carpinteria, for a moment before we leave on our tour.
Okay,
if that's
let's
okay.
sit down. Okay, and go ahead, Bob.
If it's okay, I'm going to read this, have my notes here handy, because
Sure.
there's much to cover. Like all the other candidates, I'm just concerned about local issues as they are, especially fracking, saving the bluffs, homelessness, schools and housing, and making Carpinteria a better and safer place to live. Where we have severe shortcoming is that we are woefully unprepared for climate change and in a time of limited water. And no one is sounding the alarm. No one is telling us how to prepare, what to prepare. And on all these issues, our city officials have fallen short. And it will have very severe repercussions to our community if we don't address these. I just feel it's my obligation to make myself heard. We're about to enter an extraordinary period in our history. What our community needs is a gut-wrenching reality check. The party is over. It's way past time to get serious about our future. For the past 25 years, I've been self-educating myself on local and county water issues and climate change and how it will affect our community. I am not a scientist, but some facts are crystal clear. We are running out of water, and we will face the full brunt of climate change. So with that, we can begin our tour, and I'll try to explain what I mean and what I'm talking about. Another reason for my concern is this came out in the LA Times yesterday. Trump denies climate change. And another one, could our rain woes worsen? Which goes on to say that this may be the norm. This may be what our future is with rain. So this gives me added impetus to run for city council to make our community aware of this.
Okay, well, let's go.
Let's go.
Looks like we have a nice day today. Where are we going to now?
Right next door to Kim's Market, there's a pond here that I've been meaning to find out why it's there. What is it? Is it seawater? Is it water that comes up from the slough here, or is it runoff from the nurseries? I don't know. Every time I drive by here, I've been meaning to. I say to myself, I should find out about this and see just exactly what it is.
And do you shop at Kim's Market?
Oh yeah, quite often. What a beautiful little place. They keep it really nice. Okay, that's one of my little concerns here. Next is right up here, right next to the Casa de Flores. There's the church here.
What do you think of this new development?
Oh, I love it. It's beautiful. They did a wonderful job. This church here apparently is a target of developers for a hotel. And developers, being what they are, you know, they'll sit and wait until they find an opening because there's just too much money involved, and they're not going to let it go. So,
what would you like to happen there?
I like it like it is. I don't really envision anything spectacular because I'm very concerned about development. So that's about it on that.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
We're at the corner of Via Real and Santa Monica Road. And this place is like Times Square every morning. I feel it's probably be a perfect spot for a roundabout.
Oh, interesting.
As you can see, it's we have just a huge line of cars every morning and on the way back. So that was one of my ideas. And
where are we now?
we're at a small small house on Elm Street. I was actually born here in 1941. I don't have much memory of it. The only thing I recall is that I was such a rambunctious child that my mom used to tie me to a tree in the back. And she told me that many times she'd come out and I would be gone, but my trousers would still be tied to the tree. I don't think you could do that anymore, but that's about all I remember here. Then we moved to up on 8th Street following year.
Well, what schools did you go to?
I went all through the whole school system here, from Liso to the Carpinteria High School. So.
And was Carpinteria High School on Carp Avenue?
Yes, that was the old Carpinteria High School.
Okay, well, shall we move on?
Okay.
Okay.
We're approaching my old home here. We bought this in 1980 from some people named John and June Young. They were old Carpinteria couple, and the story was that they wanted to sell this home so they could buy a yacht so they go around the world. I don't know if that's true or not, but can we get out?
Sure.
Okay. We bought this home in 1980, and we lived here for 30 years. Raised our family here, and but the main thing I wanted to point out is that I built some apartments in the back around 1986. And the reason for that, of course, to supplement our income, but mainly to provide housing for people that work here. Carpinteria has, it's so hard to find a place for anyone to live that, well, that's who I rented to, was people that worked here. Right now, we have so many people that are driving in from Ventura, Lompoc, and it just, I feel that Carpinteria should have some sort of a housing to help people. I was approached at one time about, this was before Airbnb, another form of short-term rentals. And I looked at that and I said, no, this is not for Carpinteria. Short-term rentals are not. This should be for people that work here. If we have any, it should be on the ocean side of the tracks, if at all.
And where are we now?
We are at the home where I actually grew up. We moved here in 1944, and at that time, this whole area was sort of like, I guess you could describe it sort of like a United Nations. We had people from over the world and the United States that came here to live because the property was cheap. And for instance, across the street, we have the home of Marty and Lou Panazon. I'm sure you're familiar with them. Lou was one of my dearest friends. We used to go to school. When we went to school, he would come by and we would go off to school here. And to this day, we're still, we play golf twice a week. An interesting story is my brother and him were at Vietnam at the same time, and when Lou was wounded, my brother was one of the medevac personnel that helped vacuum to a hospital. Their parents came here from Italy in 1938 to get away from Benito Mussolini. So they bought the property, then raised the two sons, Marty and Lou. Behind me here on the other side is where the Gesswein family, they were a German family from back east, I think New Jersey or someplace. And they had three sons who went on to become very successful businessmen. Across the street were the Hickmans. They came from Oklahoma. They were transplanted from Oklahoma. The father, Jim, was a oil field worker, so he went to work in the oil fields. And those apartments right in front there, we built from scrap lumber that he brought from his oil field. Right down the street were can't see, I mean, it's down the street on Walnut is where the Schuyler family, Dale and Virginia Schuyler, they had several children, some who still live here. But Phil was one of my best friends, and he went on to be a Navy pilot. And it turned out he was the most decorated Navy pilot in the Vietnam War. After the war, he was, it's an interesting story, he was on maneuvers, and they were doing some practice runs of the islands. So he peeled off. I wasn't here at the time, I really missed it. He peeled off and zoomed his jet about 200 feet over his old home, over by the mountains, and came back and did it again. And it was an incredible scene from what I understand. And he got in a little bit of trouble, but being a decorated pilot, he didn't get too much trouble. And down the street were the Swedes, Bob and Irv and Myrna Larson. Bob was was always a usual guy because he was about 6'6", and he was always the first guy to pick on our basketball team. So this whole area was just a mix of the Mexican family, the Italians, Germans. We're all living together and working together here. And it was just I look back and it was just a magical time. I couldn't. This is what I like to keep Carpinteria. Keep Carpinteria like this.
Is your ancestry Mexican?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Shall we move on?
One last thing. Underneath this street is a 22-inch natural gas pipeline. And right after the accident at San Bruno, I asked our city council to investigate these pipes, to have them inspected because of their age. Now, it was put in 1945, and I remember watching the workmen, because we were sitting on the porch there, putting this pipe in. So that pipe is over 70 years old, and it has never been inspected, and it does not have automatic shutoff valves. It's scheduled for a replacement, but I don't know, maybe in 10 years or so. But you can see what happened at San Bruno. If this thing went here, it would level this several blocks and just cause well, you see what happened there. We're standing right in front of the Venico property. I wrote an article a while back suggesting that Venico begin desalination because of the property here, and oil is not a good business right now. But we have perfect property here for that. We have plenty of room for solar panels, whatever to power it. All it takes is the people from Venico to do something like this, to do something good for the humanity instead of pumping oil. The oil business actually has caused most of all our problems. Global warming and climate change, they are mainly the problem with greenhouse gases. So I would think this would be ideal for a desal plant if it's all possible, but it would take a lot of character for Venico to attempt something like that.
Okay, where are we now?
We are at the Bluffs area, and this is one of our playgrounds when we were children. We used to play here all the time. It was a wonderful time. We had the mountains, we had the bluffs, and we had the beaches. We had our choice of whatever we wanted to do. The Bluffs right now is sort of like ground zero for development. There's just too much money here for developers not to attempt to keep trying to build something here, which I think would be awful for our community. But follow the money. There's just too much money on the table for developers to let this go. They'll find a way. Sooner or later, they're going to find a niche to get in somehow. The freeway construction is going to start pretty soon. Matter of fact, it's on its way. You can't see it from here, but and it's going to cause a huge amount of congestion. Traffic is going to go off on Carpinteria Avenue, and it's going to impact us all the way downtown. And this is going to be for years and years of this. What I'm concerned about is this traffic. Once it's stalled, cars are idling. It's a perfect recipe for ozone. It's just going to be more pollution. I've asked the city council to put in PMS units to find out where these ozone hotspots are, so we can mitigate it, so we can tell our children and elderly who are most susceptible to stay inside, or whatever it takes to to mitigate this pollution. Well, a funny story is, not a funny story, but a true story. PMS units are small units which you put in back of a car, and you drive around and you find out where it's hot, and you mark it down, and the city officials do something about it. Well, in LA, they hired this company to do that, and they put this PMS unit in back of this car, and they drove around in the freeway, and they got readings that were off the chart. They just couldn't understand what the heck. It couldn't be, so they took it back, checked it, it was okay. Went out again, same thing. Well, when they got back the second time, they figured, well, maybe it's the car. As it turned out, it was a Volkswagen diesel.
Go ahead.
This is the site of our the old train station. It was torn down several years ago, but I still remember what a wonderful place it used to be. There are plans now to rebuild something similar to that, a restaurant, perhaps a hotel, of which I think I would like to see here instead of just cement. But the problem with this is it has to be water neutral, which means I would vote for it if I was elected to council, that if it doesn't use any more water than it's already been used, or if water usage can be mitigated elsewhere. So I agree entirely with Al Clark, who voted against it for the meantime, but I think in the long run it might help our community.
Okay, and what's our last stop?
Our last stop is Ash Avenue, and it used to be called, I don't know, it used to be called the boat launch. I imagine it still is. When we were younger, we used to launch our rafts and boats and all that from there to go to the reef and do whatever. We're at at the end of Ash Avenue here. Most of the locals call it the boat launch area. If you look down the beach, you see this revetment. Sand Point is over in the corner. When I was a child, we were able to walk along the beach to Sand Point without getting wet. You can't do it. It's not possible anymore because of the rising tide and the revetment. These rocks here actually will cause trouble down the coast. It's very much like when they built the Santa Barbara breakwater. It destroyed property up all along this coast later on. That's exactly what's going to happen here. Look at this revetment now. This is going to be our future. This is what our beach is going to look like later on because of rising tide.
This because of global warming?
Because of global warming. If you believe the science, and I do, it's inevitable. It will come. I'm doing this for my grandchildren. This won't happen in our lifetime. Most of us will long be gone, but it will be here. It will come. When you look at this ocean, it's hard to believe that one day it will turn on us. It's such a beautiful place. If you just close your eyes and smell the breeze, it's just hard to imagine what's going to happen. This is what I have to bring to the city council. We have to be aware. We have to know, because this is going to affect our future. How can you make plans if you don't know what's going to happen? So that is what I'm going to have to work on. I hope get elected. I could help on this. At least I know that it's going to happen, and I can help people be aware to make their decisions that's going to affect them the rest of their lives.
Okay, well, good luck to you, Bob.
Thank you, Larry. It was a pleasure.
You're watching Touring with the Candidates for Carpinteria City Council. Let's watch the next candidate. Well, hello, and you are?
I am Wade Nimmer, running for Carpinteria City Council. Good to see you there, Larry. How are you doing?
Good.
Well, thanks for joining me. This is kind of my hangout spot. This is Jack's Bagels and Bistro here. And when I'm usually in town, I'm here just about 5 days a week, in the morning from 8:30 to 9:30. One of the pledges I made when I ran for office the first time, and which I will continue to do, is to actually be here as regularly as possible, so anybody that wants to come and see me has a chance and opportunity to talk and discuss business within the city. This area here is kind of nice because we get a good pulse of what's happening within the city, both with the local people and also with those that are the tourist types. So it works out great. I enjoy it here. The people are great. The wait staff's great. And if you haven't been here, I encourage you, come on out and hang out with me. Thank you.
Okay.
This is the Carpinteria Valley Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to bring you inside and meet Joyce Donaldson, who is the new COO of this one, and she's doing a great job.
Okay.
Joyce, how are you doing?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, good
How
morning.
are you?
Welcome, and thanks for joining Larry and myself.
Absolutely.
We wanted to come in and talk to you about some of the great things the Chamber's doing. The changes, seeing a lot fewer vacancies, some of the new and exciting new businesses.
Yes, it's downtown is certainly experiencing a new vitality. It's really exciting with all the openings. We've actually done 7 grand openings, ribbon cutting ceremonies this year, in addition to a 5-year celebration and a 15-year celebration.
Great, great. And as far as the partnership with the city, I have to admit, it's been great working with you. You've done an
Thank you.
outstanding job.
Thanks.
The city itself sees huge improvements. And
thank
so I
you.
wanted to highlight you
thank
to the audience because you are one of the key players in making this a better community.
Thank you. I'm certainly enjoying working with the City Council and all the folks at the city, and of course the business owners here in Carpinteria. They're really second to none. They're amazing.
That is great. And I see you have a trophy sitting here. You guys just had
We just had our big golf outing and fundraiser, annual fundraiser, and this actually goes to one of our local businesses, Union Bank, and they won the winning. They were the winning team for the lowest team score.
Okay.
So we've welcomed 31 new members this year. So that's
Outstanding.
exciting. You know,
Outstanding.
31 new businesses here in town in the local area.
Now, coming from a different area, have you seen the cooperation with the city being that much better? Because we are doing our best to try and include you.
Absolutely. I mean, I love working with this city. This is my 3rd chamber, so it's my 3rd round of city folks, and you know, big improvement, especially from the last chamber that I was at. So super excited about that. I love coming to the city council meetings. I learn so much, and I encourage everybody to come because you learn so much
You
about
do.
what's going on.
Very true. Well, thank you for keeping us in mind. And when I say us, Carpinteria is a very special community.
It's
The
so
valley
special.
itself is. And the hard part is the development, the changes, bringing in people from out of the area, but having them conform and fit into our community. You've done a great job of
Thanks,
that.
and we consider ourselves here at the Chamber the welcoming committee, the kind of the cheerleader of the city and the surrounding area, and we're really enjoying our job.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you.
I know you're very busy. We appreciate your time with
Have
that.
a great
Thank you.
day.
And thank you. And we'll
Thank
talk to you soon.
And
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Larry, let's go to the next stop.
Okay.
Thank you. This is the Carpinteria Boys and Girls Club, one of the areas where I think serves the community quite well. One thing we take a look at, or I do, is the availability of resources for children, for the youth, because they'll be the future of Carpinteria and our community. The Boys and Girls Club offers a lot of special opportunities for those that have, I would say, limited amount of time and guidance with their parents or peers. Boys and Girls Club fills that gap, and what we've seen, thanks to the new director, who is Michael Baker, that the changes have been astronomical. And when I say that, the changes of the programming, of people coming here, of the students now being serviced, has been one of those outstanding changes in our community. We won't see it right away, but we will eventually start seeing this, probably in the next 5-10 years, when the youth of Carpinteria actually have that guidance and understanding and are given that moral background and fiber of understanding what it's like to have respect for all people, all things, and our community itself. One other item that's very important is the daycare here. The daycare is fully functional, it works all the time, and we also open this up on Saturdays. My interest to this, the Boys and Girls Club of Carpinteria, is that I am the president of the Boys and Girls Club Foundation, and in doing so, we want to make sure that this stays open. This is available for youth and people for generations to come because this is an important element of Carpinteria. One of the new items that we have here is the Resource Center. And Larry, let's go take a look at the Resource Center.
Okay.
You're looking inside the new Resource Center, newly remodeled. It has 18 different computer stations there. And the reason this became important is because as the high school, Carpinteria High School, starts going more paperless, the problem being is that not all students have the availability of an actual computer. And so having the 18 stations here has made a huge difference because kids could now stay up. The students can now keep up with work, with their times, and not fall behind. One thing I've seen in past studies is that once a student falls behind, it takes twice as long, twice as much effort for them to catch up. And those that are already at that level will never be able to get ahead or catch up to that group in front of them. So this became quite important to us. 18 stations, it's full just about all the time. It's open after school, so anybody, all the students could come in here and do their homework assignments and have things done with the computer on the internet, so everything is available. Again, this is one of the areas where we, as the Boys and Girls Club, are reaching out to the community to make sure that we have the resources available, that our students have those resources available. Thank you.
And Wade, what do you do for a living?
I'm a landscape contractor. I've been doing that business since 1976, moved here in 1977, and actually made Carpinteria my home. I loved it down here, the small town. I'm born and raised in Santa Barbara, but Santa Barbara got too big. Carpinteria stayed real nice. Right now we're cruising in front of Catalino School, and one of the areas that we as Rotarians do and work with the schools, we actually just completed a dictionary project where we give dictionaries to all of the third graders in the Catalino area, in all of Carpinteria, and actually in Summerland also. So every student gets their own dictionary. We took a look at that, and at one point in time it was said that maybe the dictionary was becoming more obsolete now that we're coming into an internet age. However, we have found that those dictionaries go a long way, and just about everybody talks about keeping those and having those. So we will continue for quite a ways to come. We are now on the Carpinteria Bluffs area, and as you can see behind me, one of the beautiful areas of Carpinteria, and what I call pristine. This is kind of the way it was before. We want to keep this natural and native preserve, and one of the reasons why I brought you up here is because there's an effort right now to actually make this and create this into a preserve, as opposed to, we talked about hotels, high-density hotels, and also a convention center. It would be a hard fit, to be honest with you, but having a preserve up here, as you can see with the views around us, panoramic views, it's just beautiful. Also, as part of this project, I brought you up here because there's a plan set in place right now for the bike path to continue on. It's going to go all the way from the far end of Carpinteria, all the way through here, around this point, and down all the way to the Rincon there. So we're going to go down to the county park itself. And you can see the pathway. There's going to be a bridge that's going to go across the railroad tracks. So this is going to be one of those really neat bicycle path areas. The hopes is that this will become one of the world destination spots, so that people will come here for riding bicycles and be able to tour the central coast throughout. From here down to Ventura, Carpinteria would be one of those main destination spots up to Ojai. So this triangle then would be well developed for tourism for bicyclists. And again, they consider it, and I do believe it will become a world destination spot just because of the beautiful climate and atmosphere we have here, everything you see, including the landscape. One of the other points I wanted to bring out to you was back in the early 90s, I was able to work with Dave Derflinger when he was a deputy city manager on taking a look at making this 3 lanes throughout the corridor, the 101 corridor. And we were involved with that, and one of the unique things you see now is that we did the 3 lanes. That's been developed for quite a while now, and as we get now into the Carpinteria area where the extension and development is now going to continue on, you'll see some of the trends. So you can see what happened back in the early 90s and planning to now. One of the other points I would like to point out is my role with that project was to take a look at the landscaping, what happened outside of it. And you will see in the on-ramps and off-ramps in Carpinteria all the way through Goleta is that I recommended having those landscaped areas, not just sound walls, but landscape with trees. Because one of the amenities of having a freeway corridor is not just having all walls, but actually having a view. And if you think about Northern California, some of the real pristine scenic routes of freeways throughout California and the western states is that landscaped area, having something back with nature. And so that's why I developed and planned and recommended that we plant with trees all of those little areas. And you'll notice that as you drive through right now, the Santa Barbara area on the 101, that those actually have taken place. It's a beautiful area, and we need to protect it. So with that, thanks. Let's move along to the next one, but enjoy it up here. This is a great area. We're now driving along the frontage road here, and I wanted to show you some of the development and the way we've taken a look at trying to protect the bluffs. We had CKE come in, this was a while ago, and I had the fortune of being on the Architecture Review Board for about 17 years before I joined the City Council. And the development here we wanted to make sure that it stayed very nice, something that was non-impactive. And when I say that, if you notice, a lot of the buildings are set back. A lot of landscaping. We have mounds in front of it, so you don't see a lot of cars. So there's no impact as far as visibility. This one here, S&S Seeds, that is one that's been here for a long time, well before we were actually doing the plan itself. So this one kind of remained by itself, but the color changed. And then we come into here, Viola Fields. This is, again, one of those great areas that kind of sets itself off as we get into the preserved area, and that is the Bluffs area. That's been very successful. We love seeing it there. We know for a fact now that this will remain. This will stay the same for a long time without change. And so this is going to be one of those treasures for generations to come. This is City Hall. We just had our 50th anniversary. I was fortunate to be the chair of that 50th anniversary along with Greg Carty, the mayor. On this campus, we also have included a skate rink, and so we're hoping that this hockey rink, or I'm sorry, the skate park will be able to be developed fairly soon, because that's going to be one of those rare amenities where we are able to help the next generation, the younger people, with a place to go. We are hoping this area right here will actually also become a dog park.
Oh, that'd be great.
And this is going to be one that, it's in the stages right now. It's in the hands of the people. They are doing the development phase of it, but we did identify and locate, and the city will be assisting in negotiating the agreements for that piece of property. We're now crossing over Carpinteria Creek, and one of the areas that we're looking at development, that's going to become a new bridge along with the development along in here. That's going to be, I would say, somewhat impacting over the next 4 or 5 years, along with the freeway changes. Having Casitas Pass, having Linden overpasses all being redeveloped, redone because of the 3 lanes coming through on the 101 corridor. The road that we're driving on right now was just last year repaved, redeveloped, redone, and as we move forward, there's going to be other areas that we as a city have to look to and address. Fortunately, most of this was paid for by a grant. So as the grants are located and identified, Charles Ebling from the city has done an outstanding job of seeking fundings for those, and so that is our hope, that we will be able to get more matching money, funds that will be able to, I would say, leverage the money that we as Carpinterians have to put in to maintain the infrastructure. And this becomes important. Now, we had a chance to talk with Joyce Donaldson about the chamber efforts, and you can see Carpinteria is thriving. We got the motorhomes coming by here. We have people all over, and this is in an off season. This right now is a time where most of the vacationers usually are gone. But this is what's unique about Carpinteria. People will come here all year long to enjoy it. One of the minor things, as Larry could point out and coming at us, there's going to be a little bit of traffic impact, especially with the freeways being changed, built back into 3 lanes, and we're going to have to deal with this as part of the issue.
Will that be for a few years?
It's going to be starting here in the next few months, and so the impacts are already going to be hitting us. Unfortunately, we are going to be doing this, I would say, through evolution. As changes need to be made, those will be made, but we won't know all of the impacts until they actually occur. That is one of the disadvantages of it. Carpinteria has been great as far as thriving. We have new hotels, new restaurants. There's a lot of things coming in that, even though they came in, have not seemed to impact the community as much as some people had anticipated, which is good. We want to keep the Carpinteria small town charm, keep that the way it is for a long time. One thing that we have been able to do is create development with a plan, and that plan then helps to develop keeping the city the way it looked before and not getting it overly impacted. The Smart and Final came in. That was another one of those good ones. We did not know how that partnership was going to work out, but it's worked out great. Some of the other ones, we have a brand new restaurant here. There's been a few of them. This one here, the new pizza place that came in, that's been a nice change. Seeing the vibrant business and the way it's moving forward again, it's been really real positive for the city itself. And this is one area where I think as a city councilman, you really enjoy seeing it, because the pride that you have in developing these becomes the pride of the community itself, and how everybody else sees Carpinteria as still theirs. We passed by one area, I'll catch this later on, which will be the a potential new hotel that's going to be developed here in the area. And Larry and I will catch that later on as we come back. We are at the Taval Interpretive Play Area, one of the areas where it's one of my pride and joys. This was done by the Rotary Club of Carpinteria Morning, along with the City of Carpinteria, State Parks, and also with a grant that came from the federal government. This is one of those ones that would have never been completed had it not been for this joint partnership. It became close to $1 million playground, and it's being enjoyed now for generations and generations to come. There's an endowment that's been created that will help fund these projects, make sure that this is sustainable and keeps on going. The plants, everything here are all indigenous to the area, and the history of it shows that this is Carpinteria. Again, we've really enjoyed it. People come here all over the place. They come in here, everything from cars to planes to trains, and it's all available here. Have you enjoyed the park?
Oh, we love it. I mean, Jack loves it. It's such a nice contribution to the area.
Great. Now, are you local?
Yes, we are.
Oh, Carpinterians.
Very proud.
Oh, good, good. Now, the reason I'm doing this, this is part of a campaign for City Council here, so
Cool.
we appreciate that. Nice dog, and so you've enjoyed it.
We love it. We come here almost daily.
Wow.
And we meet.
All right.
And I've met so many parents and other children, so it's a great meeting spot, a great place to have play dates and get outside and
Perfect.
enjoy the scenery.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and
Thank you.
enjoy.
Thank you.
Thanks. We are right now standing at the location of a potential new hotel. This is going to be called the Train Station Project. It's in conceptual form right now, but as an amenity to the city, we were thinking that it might work out quite well. There are some logistics involved, including the potential of conflict of interest. This is one area where I look at. I don't want the city going into business per se. I want to make sure that it remains a municipality. So this is part of the challenge that we face. But again, I believe it's going to be a pretty nice project. We are at the Carpinteria Beach, one of my favorite areas, and one of the reasons why myself and probably everybody else that lives in Carpinteria has been here, along with the tourists. I'm standing on a new boardwalk. This boardwalk was designed and developed to help gain access for those ADA people that couldn't quite make it there. So it's been a great one. People have enjoyed it. I think it's an outstanding amenity to include within this area. And as you can see, it's made out of Trex material, so it's going to last us a long time. Right now we're in the quiet time of the season, so the beach isn't quite as impacted as usual. But again, this is one of the areas I love. I've had the fortune of traveling around the world for Rotary International, and it's always nice to be back home. And this is one of the areas I treasure as part of me now. And having brought up my family, my children here, we've enjoyed Carpinteria tremendously. With that, I would like to thank you for watching, listening in, and I would like to say that Carpinteria, and the reason I want to be on City Council and the reason I do this is because this is my home. I want to give back. I've given back to a lot of different organizations, a lot of charities around the world, but Carpinteria it's where I'm at. It's my passion, and it's what I want to give to you. I do over 40 hours a week for volunteer services. A lot of this is because this is where I like to be. And with that, thank you very much. I appreciate your support.
Hey, good luck to you, Wade.
Thank you very much, Larry.
Let's watch the next candidate.
Hi, Larry. Come on in.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you. And you are?
I'm Fred Shaw, and I'm running for re-election to the Carpinteria City Council. And this is my home. Let me show you a little bit around. This is kind of the great room, we call it.
And where are we?
We are at Silver Sands Mobile Home Park at Space 25.
Okay, very good.
Space 25. Since the last time you were here, we've added 2 grandchildren. Wonderful. They're right there, our 3-year-old and our 10-month-old. We were just this weekend at Lion Country Safari Park down in San Diego, and we got this group picture of the 5 of us. And the other big thing that we've done here in the house since you've been here last, aside for adding 2 grandkids, is we added solar panels up on the roof. You can't see them from in here, but outside there's about 14 panels. And about 3 years ago, my wife and I decided we love the idea of renewable energy, so we might as well put our money where our mouth was, and we had solar installed in the house. And to be honest, since then, we've probably given back, we know that we've given back more power to the Edison than we've used. We're way ahead of the game in that regard. That being said, that was one of the things that prompted me on City Council to push real energetically to get us involved in the Community Choice Energy Program, which is a tri-county program, Ventura, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo County. And basically the idea is people, residents here in town, once the whole process is completed and we send out for bids and things like that, once that's done, people in town will be able to decide what kind of energy they're using, whether it's fossil fuel energy, solar, wind. They'll be able to decide what percentage of energy comes where.
What's
a
the
really
name of
good
that
program.
again?
It's called Community Choice Energy.
Okay.
And currently we're involved in the feasibility study of it, and the person at City Hall who's actually on the panel is Aaron Maker, who is our environmental coordinator for the city. And now, I guess if you're ready, we might as well take off on our little trip.
I'll follow you. Great, Fred.
Okay, we're right outside my front deck right now, and despite the fact we make our decisions on the dais at City Hall, the majority of my work, and probably most of our council members' work, is done at their home reading. We're reading anywhere from 50 to 400 pages every time we have a meeting, plus doing outside research, and I do a lot of my reading here on the deck. Another thing you'll notice here at the same time is the Carpinteria Beautiful sign and the Golden Jubilee sign with my wife's and my name on it. And that's because one of the other things that I'm involved in with my wife is we administer the dog bag program for the city, which means they come here for dog bags, which means they have to know Carpinteria Beautiful's the one giving them out, and that this is our house, so they know this is where they're going to get the dog bags. One other thing I'd like to say about council, and for just a second, is one of the things I really like about working on council is the council is very respectful, not only of what the other council members are saying, but also the public, because we're there to listen and hear their views as well as discussing the issues ourselves. And it's very important to me personally that we can keep that kind of, I don't know that the camaraderie works, but that kind of working together process going on City Council. I think it makes a big difference when we're working towards arriving at decisions which are the best for the city.
Fred, what issues will the council be facing on the new term?
Well, I think, Larry, that new issues coming up that I think are going to be big issues. One will be the marijuana growing in the greenhouses up on the other side of Foothill. I think that will be a big issue. We still have the ordinance that we originally crafted for short-term vacation rentals, and that's currently now down with the Coastal Commission, and they're deliberating on it, and then they'll send back any revisions that they'd like to see us make to it, and then we'll go from there before we finally have crafted a short-term vacation rental ordinance. Now, another thing that's probably going to happen once that happens is we will have to do what we did before. Only 3 of the 5 of us will probably be able to vote on that, because 2 of the people on council had to recuse themselves because their wives are involved in short-term rentals. So that'll make it a little more interesting. But I think those are 2 issues that are going to come up. And of course, obviously, as we're driving along the freeway here, the freeway is going to be with us forever, and now that phase 3 is going to be totally concentrated in Carpinteria, then that's something that we're going to have to deal with for the next 4 years at least, just for phase 3. So those are issues, potential issues that are going to be coming up, I would say, over the next 4 years that will be involving council quite a bit.
And where are we going now?
Right now we're going up to Bluffs 3. The Bluffs areas from City Hall all the way, basically Dump Road and that vacant field there, all the way up to the top of the Rincon Hill here, what used to be the old Thunder Bowl. All of that is considered City Hall, and Veneco is Bluffs 0. Bluffs 1 is tea time, everything through the Bluffs Nature Preserve. Bluffs 2 is all the industrial section. And now we're entering Bluffs 3.
And where are we now, Fred?
We are at Bluffs 3. Now, Bluffs 3 for years, when I first came on council, was zoned as a resort area. But we had some very generous donors who live locally, and they, in conjunction with the Land Trust of Santa Barbara, were able to purchase 21 of the 24 acres that are part of Bluffs 3. And now, working with the Citizens for the Carpinteria Bluffs and the Land Trust of Santa Barbara, and eventually the City of Carpinteria, the Land Trust, when enough money is raised to pay off the loan, will then deed the property over to the city, and the city will own it forever, and it will become open space, just like the Bluffs Nature Preserve that's part of Bluffs 1. It's a wonderful win-win for the city, and thanks to the generosity of a lot of local people, we're going to be able to make it happen. Now, another part of what's going on up here, and actually part of the freeway work that they're doing in Phase 3, is just at the top of the bluffs over there. If you can kind of look at the top, directly below it is Rincon Park. Well, at Rincon Park, there's a bike path that runs all the way from Muscle Shoals all the way into the Santa Barbara County line and to the Carpinteria City County line. Now, that bike path stops there, but part of Phase 3, by the time Phase 3 is completed, there'll be a bike path. That's part of the agreement. The bike path will run along the tracks, up over the tracks, and down to here to Carpinteria Avenue, so people will literally be able to ride their bicycle or walk, if they really are into walking or hiking, from Ventura all the way to the end of the west end of Carpinteria without ever being on a freeway.
That's great.
And they'll be able to look at all this marvelous coastal vista at the same time while they're doing it. Now, another part of that we're looking at right now, and I happen to be on the committee that is bicycle tourism. In other states, like Oregon as an example, bicycle tourism is becoming really big business. I think they made several millions of dollars just in transient occupancy tax, bed tax, up in Oregon on travelers coming through on bicycles. As a matter of fact, this morning when I was at the post office, I met somebody who was doing just that. He was going all the way from Washington State down to the San Diego and the U.S. border just to see if he could do it on his bike. It was an interesting talk with them, but that's kind of what we're looking for, people who are just traveling through on bicycles, less pressure on the freeways, and of course all this beautiful scenery. Now, aside for all of the stuff that will come with that bike path and bicycle tourism, we're also kind of at the eastern edge of our industrial and light industry R&D section in Carpinteria. If you go on that side of the freeway, you'll see buildings over there kind of amongst the trees that used to be lynda.com. They were absorbed by LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has since expanded into the old Salvation Army building. And if you go back over this direction, you can kind of see the building back there. That's the original campus of Procore. Procore has now grown enough that they're now expanding into the CKE building as CKE vacates to move their corporate headquarters. Now Procore has gotten big enough to move into that space. What's important about both of those businesses is that both of those businesses are tech businesses, which makes them resource neutral and very good for a sustainable economy and for a sustainable environment. They're not going to hurt the environment like other kinds of manufacturing might. So we're very happy to have them there, and it's really, for me personally, it's nice to see our tech industry out here grow. It can only help the city's bottom line. Okay, we're now at Casa de las Flores. When I first started on city council, we needed more workforce, low-income housing in town, and we were just completing the addition to Dahlia Court down the other side of Santa Monica Road off Santa Ynez, and we added 33 more units of low-income, affordable workforce housing. Well, after that, that was partnered with People's Self-Help Housing. After that, then this used to be an old camper park, and it was a drug den and everything else. People's Self-Help Housing bought this project and they leveled it, and now they built Casa de las Flores in partnership with the city of Carpinteria. And this is a real accomplishment for council while I was on council, permitting it and everything else. And this is kind of almost a state-of-the-art complex. You have 46 units here of low-income affordable housing. It's designed with a bioswale, so any water runoff, rather than going just out into the street, goes here, which eventually filters back down into the aquifer. Inside, there's a big play yard with special turf that the kids can't get hurt. Okay, we're now on the inside of Casa de las Flores, and you can see this beautiful playground area that they have for the children. And over here behind us to our left, they have a big meeting room and kitchen and stuff like that. And later in the day, the kids will come in here and take classes, art classes and study classes for school itself. It's really a beautifully designed project, and they have kids from the high schools coming over to work with them as well as counselors. It's just a beautiful situation.
Where are we now?
We're now at 5th Street in Linden, right by the railroad tracks. If we look to my left, that's the Kilovac building, which is just about empty. One of the things I want you to notice right away and kind of keep it in your head as a vision, imagine, since it's already 2 stories, if the first story was all small shops, art galleries, maybe little pop-in restaurants, whatever, and then the top floor with a setback would be apartments, would be housing. That's called mixed use, where you have bottom commercial and top housing, and we could add more housing there, probably quite a few more apartments above, with a veranda looking right out on a street scene here down the Linden corridor, which is the main walking corridor of the street. And imagine, if you will, the old Austin's building, exactly the same thing could happen there. 2 stories with setbacks, creative setbacks on the 2nd floor, commercial below, art galleries, whatever, and then above would be housing for people who want to work and live here in town. Another thing to bear in mind, if we look this direction, there's the suggestion of an inn. Possible inn there of about 30, 35 rooms. It's a 10,000 square foot footprint as they talk about it now. This is all just, we're looking into it now. It hasn't gone any farther than conceptual. But beyond that, there would be parking, and beyond that is our new community garden. And I would recommend calling City Hall and get your name on the list to get a plot in that community garden. That should be opening up in the next, probably in the next month or so, that will be opening up. Another thing the city did was they bought the property on both sides of Linden, or on both sides of the railroad tracks from Linden to Holly. What that's going to allow us to do is maybe put some parking right over there, maybe a strolling continuation of the path that runs right along Tomall Park, right there between the state campground and Tomall Park, all the way to Holly. And eventually we plan on putting an underpass at Holly, which will allow people who live in the beach area another way to get into the downtown, aside for having to walk all the way to Linden and down that way. They'll be able to walk or take their bikes underneath. For kids going to school, and I see so many because I live over there, running across the railroad tracks to get to Aliso School or to Catalino, it's just not safe, and having an underpass will make a huge difference. By the way, I would mention that with my vision of what you could do with those buildings on Linden, like the Kilovac building, with proper setbacks, you'd totally avoid the canyon effect that you don't want in a strolling downtown. You want it to look open, and you can avoid that canyon effect by creatively setting back the 2nd stories. And it still has still gives you plenty of room to accomplish the housing that you would gain on those 2nd floors. Okay, here we are at Casitas Pass, which is part of the freeway project that they're doing, phase 3. And you can see the gridlock right here as big trucks are trying to turn on a 2-lane bridge to get on either side. Once this is expanded to 4 lanes, we'll have 4 lanes with a center divider, and we'll also have bike paths and walkways on both sides of the freeway, which will make it much safer for cyclists and pedestrians. Okay, now that we're on the bridge, you can see how widening it is going to make a difference during rush hour traffic. Also, significantly, where our on-ramp right now goes right down to the freeway, if you've ever gotten on at Linden, that's a 1/4 mile away, and people getting on here are right on your tail right then. Kind of scary. This on-ramp will be moved back there when they put Via Real all the way through, which is the third part of this section of the project that I really like. Once Via Real goes all the way through, all the people on the eastern end of town, that's 3 mobile home parks and all the condos and the industrial section, will all have easy access into the downtown rather than to have drive back up to Baylord and over and then down Carpinteria Avenue. And the shuttle will now be able to come all the way through and make that loop all the way through by Catalino and come back around. So this is probably a key part of that phase 3 of the 101 project. Widening this bridge, widening the bridge over at Linden, and also extending Via Real all the way through. It'll be safer, it'll be a much easier drive for everybody, and hopefully, because Via Real will be through, much less pollution because people won't have to drive around to get into town. We're now at Grand Vita, which is one of the latest additions to Carpinteria. In this case, we're thinking about our seniors, especially our seniors who need assisted living. This will be 70-some units within this footprint right here, with balconies in the upper floors looking out on the creek. There'll be a 17-bed unit with extra security for people who are memory challenged. And I've been through it once already. It's a beautiful facility. They have game rooms. They have a beautiful industrial kitchen. They have a general eating area, but they also have individual apartments for people who would like to entertain maybe a guest or two there. They can have their own apartment in this facility.
Where is it?
This is all right behind Albertsons. That's the whole Albertson shopping center there. This was an office building that was reconverted into senior assisted living, which again is a great use and what I think is a great use of space within the city without having to develop outside the city. We're just reusing a building and crafting it for something that meets the needs of people who live here. Okay, so to wrap things up, my name is Fred Shaw and I'd appreciate your vote for Carpinteria City Council. I thank you for taking the time to watch this video and looking at what my vision for Carpinteria over the next 4 years is. If you'd like more information, please visit my website, fredshaw4, C-A-R-P, @gmail.com. Thank you very much for giving me this time.
Okay, good luck to you, Fred.
Thank you.
You've been watching Touring with the Candidates for Carpinteria City Council. This is a reminder that there are 2 seats open in this coming election. I hope you found the program informative. I'm your producer, Larry Nimmer, and we'll see you next time.